Trudy Mason sitting in for Aaron, welcoming a familiar voice to CJAD 800 listeners, CTV's tech analyst, Carmi Levy. Good afternoon, Carmi.
Good afternoon, Trudy. So great to be with you today.
Yes, always a pleasure to talk to you. And we have a lot of stuff to get through. So let's start with this story about a suspected Canadian hacker who has been unmasked after this was a threat against a cybersecurity researcher. Give us a story on that, Carmi.
Yeah, his name is Connor Riley Muka. He's 25, based in Kitchener, Ontario, and he was part of this online hacking group that would shake down victims for millions of dollars in Bitcoin, ransomware attacks, computer fraud, wire fraud, you name it. He's facing a whole bunch of federal charges in the U.S. For his online crimes. And as he was committing those crimes, he went online into a Telegram group chat. And he was boasting about it. And he crossed paths with a security researcher, a Canadian and American, lives in New York. Her name is Allison Nixon. She heads her own cybersecurity company. And she started calling him out on it, got into a conversation with him, and he threatened her, which sort of prompted her to get her team. The company is known as Unit 221B. Sherlock Holmes fans will know what that means. And she got her team to start investigating him, and they realized that, oh my goodness, this guy's really into it. And he's bragging about it. Well, she learned a whole lot about his crimes, handed the data over to law enforcement, and they arrested him at his grandfather's house in Kitchener-Waterloo. And so the interesting thing about this is that a lot of cyber criminals think, well, they're online, they can be anonymous, they can nail victims from far away, halfway around the world. And this is an interesting case. It shows that if you want to be a cyber criminal and you want to brag about it, and then you want to threaten a cybersecurity researcher with it, you might find yourself on the wrong side of the law. And this is one case where the good guys totally win.
What a dope. Now, is he going to be extradited to stand trial in the U.S., or is he being charged in Canada, Carmi?
He is first going to be extradited in the U.S., and Canadian officials are going to be watching this case closely. Based on what happens in the U.S., they will likely file charges north of the border as well, but only after the Americans deal with him. Bottom line is, these are federal charges in the U.S., and if they stick, and there are multiple ones, and you know the central case is $2.5 million stolen in ransomware from a number of victims, and so that is a significant crime. He could very well, by the time he gets out of jail, he'll be a much older man, probably not living in his grandfather's basement. It might be years, if not longer, before Canadian officials get a hold of him. But right now, extradition proceedings getting him over to the U.S. are in progress.
This next topic, we've been hearing about this, the back and forth on this for, I think it's been a couple of years now, whether or not streaming services should be required to fund Canadian content and by how much. And Carmi, what's the latest update on these streamers not so happy with the CRTC telling them they had to put money into this?
Yeah, they're arguing in court this week that they shouldn't have to pay for it. Apple, Amazon, Spotify, they're sort of under an umbrella group called the Motion Picture Association Canada, and they are saying that the CRTC doesn't have jurisdiction, that this amounts to a tax, and it's not fair. And let's put this in perspective. Apple is a $4 trillion company. Amazon is a $3 trillion company. They're arguing over paying each one of them $1.25 million annually into a fund that will go toward local media. Remember, if you're a traditional broadcaster, you've been paying upwards of 30% of revenues per Canadian law for decades. Now the government's asking streamers to do the same thing, and they're balking at it. This is rich beyond belief, unfair beyond belief, and I think we all have a strong interest in making sure that as these multi-billion-dollar companies make huge amounts of profits off of Canadians, that they pay their fair share back into our cultural industries to ensure newsrooms continue to function, that movies and television programs continue to be funded in Canada, and that if your kid wants to become an actor, a writer, a producer, a musician, that there's still funding available for that, and the companies that profit off of our cultural industries, that they're part of that ecosystem too. Not fair for them to not want to be paying their fair share, especially considering how paltry the amounts are to them.
Give us the quick lowdown on GameStop and how this is a real oops. Yeah, I got to say, this is a real oops. GameStop broke some of its customers Nintendo Switch 2 units with a mistake. What was the
Yeah.
mistake, Carmi?
They were stapling the sales receipts to the outside of the box, but the way that Nintendo built the box, the actual unit, the Switch 2 unit, was inside the box and its screen was facing outward, so the staple went right through the screen,
Oh.
destroyed the screens. And of course, Switch 2, it's brand new, it's just been launched, it's hot, everybody wants one, they're hard to find, and every single Switch 2 in the Staten Island store was damaged in this way. To
Ooh.
GameStop's credit, they have offered to replace all of them. They're in the process of doing that. They're making good on it. But it's one of those boneheaded mistakes that kind of makes you wonder, how does this company still stay in business if it doesn't train its people a little bit better than that? Boy, I would hate to be on the receiving end of one of those. That is for sure.
And Carmi, I want to end off talking to you about something. I had no clue this had happened to you, Carmi. And when I saw that you were willing to talk about having suffered a stroke, I was amazed. He's such a young man. That's exactly what I said. Carmi is such a young man, but you are speaking on behalf of Annual Stroke Month. It is June Stroke Month here in Canada. What was your experience with a stroke?
I was on my bicycle. I came across some construction, which, of course, in Montreal we're very familiar with. I turned my head to make a U-turn, and in doing so, tore the carotid artery on the left side. And a few hours later, that off clots into my brain, and I collapsed while barbecuing. And thankfully, my wife, she's a teacher. She had been trained in recognizing strokes. The FACE protocol, the FAST protocol. Your face, is it drooping? Your arms, can you raise both of them? Is your speech slurred or jumbled? And if the answer to any of those questions is yes, then it's time to call 911. She recognized it. I got the help that I needed. I was paralyzed on my right side, and I could not speak, and I made an almost full recovery. And so ever since then, I've been hearing stories of people who waved it off. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. I don't want to go to the emergency room. I don't want to spend 12 hours waiting. And of course, by the time they did get medical help, it was too late. There's a window of opportunity. And so I'm working with Heart and Stroke Foundation this month as part of Stroke Awareness Month to raise awareness so that we all know what those signs are. 39% of Canadians don't know the signs, and we all need to know, and that they can take action and recognize that it isn't just an old person's thing. It happened to me in my 40s. It can happen to any of us, even to teenagers, kids, and babies. So take the time, go to heartandstroke.ca, learn about it, talk to everybody in your family, make sure that you're all up on those signs and that you know what to do if you come across that, because time is of the essence. We know that brain cells don't regenerate themselves. The longer this goes on, before you get treatment, the more brain cells die. If you get treatment quickly, that potential for a full recovery, much, much higher. And I know how lucky I am that I got the help that I needed in basically record time. I don't want to hear any other stories of people suffering needlessly.
Carmi, thank you very much for speaking on behalf of Stroke Month. Go to Heart and Stroke Canada online, folks, and you can find lots of educational materials there. Thanks, Carmi.
Really appreciate being here, Trudy. Thank you.
All righty.